This is Business LO, a podcast by the Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce, which connects, educates, advocates, and champions our business community. We have nearly 500 members from international corporations to home-based businesses, and we serve them all. Each episode of Business LO gives insider information to the local business community and the neighbors who support them. And now, let's talk Business LO.
Today is March 26, 2026, and this episode will publish on April 1st. And we are thrilled to have once again Lake Oswego's esteemed mayor and fellow business owner to Business LO, Joe Buck. We're going to discuss goal-setting strategies, the plans for promoting the businesses of Lake Oswego, and recent leadership changes. Chamber CEO Liz Hartman will run the conversation as well as provide insider info with what you need to know in LO. I'm Michelle Odell, and let's talk with Mayor Buck.
Welcome, Mayor Buck, to Business LO. We are so pleased to have you here for a second time, and I know the City Council has been busy over this beginning to 2026. So our podcast listeners are primarily interested in the business aspect of Lake Oswego. What are some of the strategy components from the annual goal-setting meeting before we get into business?
We start off by getting a lot of input from the community and other stakeholders. So we do that through a variety of mechanisms. One, throughout the year, we're just in general always receiving communications. We're receiving input from the staff at the city, from our advisory boards and commissions. And then we also open up a community-wide survey just to solicit open input from people specific to goals. Hey, what are you thinking about in the years ahead? And then, of course, we have a lot of ongoing work in process that kind of continues year over year. So some larger planning efforts, whether that's Foothills is a good example, or the wastewater treatment plant project. These aren't just single small couple month projects. Like, these are multi-year projects that carry over. The council accumulates a large list, and we all have to make our own priority decisions, and we submit, each of us, I believe it's 5 items we get to choose. What are your top kind of 5 things you'd like to see the city working on? We know that the longer term projects are going to be on the list, so you don't waste one of your 5 with one that you know is going to be by default on the list. You don't need to put Foothills because Foothills is going to be on there. And so what are the 5 things? And then we compile all of the items that the council submits with some of the important items that have come from the staff as well. These could be regulatory items, things that, hey, we really need you to do this in this next year type of things. And then we get together and we talk about them in our goal setting retreat. If someone submitted a goal, they may talk about it. We may hear from staff on their perspective, what kind of resources that goal may take, whether it's something that we could feasibly do in that next year. Because the council goals really represent what is going to be on the council's work plan in the year ahead. It's not a representation of everything the city is doing. If something isn't on the goals list, it doesn't mean it's not a priority for the city. For instance, we don't have to have maintaining the parks as a goal because the parks just get maintained. It doesn't mean that they won't get maintained, or that if we don't have something related to law enforcement on the goals list, that the police will just stop enforcing laws. So there's a lot of things that just happen as a matter of course. The goals list is, how is the council going to spend its time in the year ahead? And so there could be some goals we're working towards that just in the flow of them are not going to bring work back to the council in that coming year, but it may happen in a subsequent year. So it may not be a goal for this year, but it may be something that work takes place in the background this year, and then it comes back as a council goal in the next year. Anyway, that's the basic process. Then, of course, we vote. We kind of rank, we all vote using a poll mechanism, and that produces a ranking list of all the different items that were submitted. And we're pretty disciplined about keeping to somewhere in the 18 to 20 number of goals per year. Because if we make it limitless, we said we're going to have 50 goals, well, then we're not really prioritizing anything. That makes it challenging for the staff to know, what should we do first, second, third? And so we really hone it down to a list of about 20. And that means that some things that some of us had wanted to do, we don't get to do this year. We keep those in mind, for a future year. But that helps us be productive. As mayor, I really work to make sure that everyone on the council is able to advance something that they're interested in. It shouldn't just be one council member or a couple council members having their priorities always rise to the top, and someone else has something they're interested in never come, to the top. I want to make sure each of the 7 members of the council have items that they are hearing from the community that they themselves are passionate about, make that goals list.
There are some changes going on at City Hall. I know Councilor Rapf has resigned midterm, and we'll be looking at 3 councilor elections in the fall. Tell us what business owners should be looking at as they look at city council changes.
With elections every 2 years now, just as mayor, I've served on several iterations of the council, and I will say it's nice having these kind of like unspoken traditions on the council carry forward, because no matter who is on the council, there's just been a certain collegiality to the way the council works together. And with 7 people in a small town, there's no escaping the fact that we have to be able to move the ball forward. We are your neighbors and your colleagues, and we all see each other all the time, right, as members of the Lake Oswego community. So we're very accountable to the voters. And I think that the council members have always taken their jobs very seriously and have strived to, above all else, work really well together to be able to get things done, and have been able to put just the community first, being able to continue to move Lake Oswego forward in a way that brings everyone along has been a tradition that's gone on as long as I've been involved, with different leadership, different voices, and it's helped make Lake Oswego the community that it is. And so, yes, here we are in 2026. This is another year of change with open seats on the council coming up for election. I always hope that folks that the community sends to the council, I think the community has always done a good job, the folks that they send to the council. I always hope that they send people to the council who can be those good collaborators, who can work well with others, who can understand that their perspective is not the only perspective in the room, that we are a community of many perspectives. We are a council of many perspectives. And the name of the game isn't just to be right all the time and to get your way all the time, but it's to listen more than anything else, try to understand things from a different side so that when we move things forward, it's done in a way that brings as many people along as possible, and people can understand the decisions and they are seen as very reasonable and fair.
So tell me what you would advise new business owner or even a longtime business owner about relationships with city council. Is it a good idea to invite someone to your business to get to know what you're doing?
Oh, yes. I think that's a great idea. So many different kinds, of businesses here. We have Main Street businesses, the names that we all know and love that really help define the business community. But then we have tons of at-home businesses. We have tons of kind of office-based businesses, folks that are really working behind the scenes that aren't those kind of Main Street businesses. The council especially would love to know about any challenges folks are facing, any challenges their employees are facing. It's all around. It's, how are folks coming into work? How is the environment during the day for them? It just really helps us all be, better city councilors if we can understand the needs of businesses. So getting involved and having the council come and visit, I know that we all love doing that. And so reach out anytime. And I don't think it's great too. One thing I would recommend is subscribing to the lowdown email, which we put out every 2 weeks, and it is kind of a really good summary of what the council is doing. And I recommend this to anyone in the community. I mean, unfortunately, local news is becoming just fewer and far between. The local media is not able to cover everything that the city is doing in the same way it had been able to do in the past. And keeping people informed about what is going on at the city level is something we really work hard to do, but it takes participation from everyone. And the lowdown is it's pretty short. It has information about what's going on in the community, but it always gives a summary of here's the things that were on the agenda at the last meeting. So you can peruse it and think, oh, okay, there's, maybe a couple annexations here. There was, maybe a land use issue, or there's a policy the city is working on. And it can go a long way in really staying informed about what's going on in the city.
So if I want to write to my city councilor, I know I can go to the council distribution for the city website, and it goes to all the city councilors. How do I know if they have received the letter, and who decides who's going to respond to a letter?
We have council agreements. These are informal things that kind of our mode of operating, and we all just kind of agreed to, okay, here's how things are going to work. So generally, when something comes into council distribution, the first question is, well, is this a policy related item for the council to respond to, or is this an operational type item that we need to direct to the appropriate member of the city team to get back to them on? So we get back to everyone. Well, sometimes people aren't looking for a response. So everyone knows the council does read the emails that come in. The city manager and I are kind of the point people to make sure that those emails get responded to. So if it's a policy related item, I'm the one who will write back. If it's something that individual council members particularly interested in, they may also write back. There's strict rules at the state in terms of kind of all of us communicating together. So we can't have these council and community email chains taking place because of state ethics laws. So if I reply, it would just probably be me to the resident, maybe with the city manager or other members of the staff on the email. That doesn't mean we're cutting our colleagues out. It just means we can't all be on these emails together, because when the council meets and we have discussions, we have to do that in public, not on an email thread. But if someone has an email too, if it's a specific question, it's something a particular council member is interested in, you can just email that council member directly. That can be effective as well, and that person should write you back.
Economic development is one of the priorities or part of the work session that City Council addressed. Tell us a little bit about what economic development in Lake Oswego means to you.
In Oregon, just recently, you hear this becoming like a big topic, economic development, and in the short legislative session, it was a big topic, what are we going to do for economic development? And I was always kind of reading paying attention to reading the news articles and the city we get involved in, and a little lobbying down there in Salem and whatnot to say, okay, well, what exactly does this mean, And this last session at the state level, economic development had to do with a lot of times at the state, it has to do with providing some kind of incentive to attract certain types of businesses, typically manufacturing type businesses. Recently it's been chip manufacturing or other kind of high tech jobs to Oregon. And there's always this debate. One, it's having the land to be able to do that. So there was a bill at this last legislative session that would have expanded some of the urban growth boundary to allow for more industrial land. This is out though in Washington County. And then it was like, then what incentives are we going to provide? What tax incentives are we going to provide for these businesses to come in? And that's a big debate, because some people say, hey, why are we giving away the farm? Why are we, expanding the urban growth boundary and then allowing businesses to come in with big property tax breaks on the land, on the equipment that they may buy? Is that fair to the existing businesses that we have who are paying full freight, et cetera? And so it was a big debate. Here in Lake Oswego, it's a little different, right? We can't expand. We are locked in with the land that we have. So when we talk about economic development, it's like, how are we making best use of the land that we currently have and making sure that it's all zoned appropriately given conditions? And as we all know, things have changed really recently in the last decade, but really even in the last 5 years, since the pandemic. Lake Oswego notably, has the largest Class A office space in the area there along the Meadows Cruise Corridor. And that used to be packed every day. And the big deal was that you had free parking. So it was very attractive. Now, the vacancy rates along the Meadows Corridor are not nearly as high as the office vacancies we see down in Portland, but all you have to do is drive through the Meadows Corridor any day during the week, and you see that those parking lots are quite a bit more empty than they ever used to be. And it's not necessarily because the spaces aren't leased, but it's because, people have hybrid schedules, and the vacancy rates are higher than they have been in the past as offices don't need as much space. As they're growing their companies, because of hybrid work schedules, they're able to do that with either the same space they have, or as their leases are renewing, they're trying to downsize their space a little bit too. And those offices in Meadows, those are made for large corporate offices, right? So Shorenstein recently, they built a multifamily project along the Meadows corridor where they had planned to, eventually build a new office building and said, well, we're not going to need this, but what we do need is housing. And so the city worked with them so they would be able to build that housing down there. And that's a good project. And then more recently, they came into the city and said, hey, could you help us rezone 3 office buildings that are just off of Boone's Ferry across from the Springs retirement, because they were the most vacant of their buildings. And they would like to convert those, well, not convert, they would like to eventually take them down and build a variety of housing in their place. Building housing is a big goal of the cities. It's important overall. And so the city council really supported that zone change. So in part, our economic development strategy is making sure that we are working with property owners and businesses to make sure that we have the right mix of zone types in our commercial areas that enable businesses to develop given kind of current conditions and looking out into the future. We don't see the office environment having a massive comeback, in 10, 20 years. I think these trends are going to continue, more flexibility and whatnot, but people love living in Lake Oswego. And so all of this growth and development remains important to the community. But the other piece of this is not just about new things, right? It's not just about business coming in to Lake Oswego. It's about supporting the businesses that we have. We have a lot of longtime businesses that have been in our community and done well here. We want to make sure they continue to do well. So it's listening to those businesses, knowing what they need. Sometimes we have a big retail environment here, as I talked about, those Main Street businesses, the names we all know and love. They tell us, hey, we just need more feet on the ground. We know that whether you're a Main Street business, whether you're someone like the Lakewood Center, which is a huge draw across the region, you only get a certain amount of your business from the folks who live here in town. And we all really rely on people coming from the neighboring communities to come to Lake Oswego. So we want to make sure that in the region, people know that Lake Oswego's door is open, just open for business, but open for folks to come in and visit, to go to our parks, to walk around, to visit our businesses. And people love doing that. They love coming to Lake Oswego from neighboring communities. And we want to make sure that we're, as a city, that business owners know that we are invested in their success, and we are going to do our part to help set the table so that Lake Oswego is a destination that people want to come and visit to and help them get those feet on the street. So all of our promotion is aimed at, hey, you might come here and say, wow, this is a great community. This is a place maybe I want to live, whether you're coming from a different state, you're visiting, family and friends here, or you're coming from Tualatin or Tigard or Beaverton or Portland, and you think, wow, this is a really great community, and I might want to make this my home. So that's kind of my goal, is that we're just really welcoming to opening our doors, building bridges, and bringing people in and showing them that Lake Oswego is a place where you are welcome to be for whatever reason. We have so many great events that we do here as a city. I mean, people come from all over, even our 4th of July parade. People come from all these surrounding communities, and it's just great to see that. And it's just something we want to build on. And thus far, we have never been really, as a city, we've never been really intentional about putting the word out there that, hey, come to Lake Oswego, come experience our great parks, our great events, and our great local businesses. And that's what I'm hoping we can do in these years ahead.
You're also, in addition to being the mayor, a local business owner. So how do you think the business climate is in Lake Oswego?
Lake Oswego has always been a great place. I'm third generation local business owner. And when my grandparents, came here, Lake Oswego was a very, different town than it is today in many respects. But it's always been a town that is very friendly to business. And then it's been a great place to have a business. The folks of the community and the surrounding areas really support their local businesses. Lake Oswego is unique. You can't go to a neighboring city and find the same businesses that you find here. And we want to keep that, being the case. And so it is really important to support the businesses that we have. And we do have an active city. They're responsive, to concerns. We are a particular community. I'll say we have very, you can't just put up any sign you want. That some areas have certain colors you can paint things. I mean, there are some very particular things about this community, but I think we see that because people do care. They care about what the community looks like. They care about that built environment, and they care about the success of the people here. So I think sometimes we have to look at that and make sure, hey, are we going too far here? It's becoming too onerous. But at the same time, we all agree it's nicer having some of this sense of place that really makes Lake Oswego special than just having, our main streets look like Highway 99 or whatnot, with just anything and everything.
Mayor Buck, if there is something that has been on your mind that you want business owners to know, this is a good time to make your pitch. Or give us that Chamber of Commerce message that you give to outsiders when you say, come to Lake Oswego.
To people in the business community, whether you're here in Lake Oswego now or you're thinking of coming here, Lake Oswego is a great place to be engaged. What I really appreciate about are the business community and the city, the school district, like all our community organizations as a whole, is people really are invested in the community here. In other communities, you do see that leaders in the business community, leaders that they don't really get involved in the city. They say, oh, we're not interested in that. We're going to let others take that role. And that has never been the case here. People really do step up. These are all, so many people primarily on a volunteer basis, just because they care about the community, they get involved, whether it's, as I said, in elected roles or whether it's in other roles within the community. They are all very, very important to the ecosystem of a healthy community. We want people to know that those doors are open for everyone. We want new voices involved. There's people who have been here a long time that are engaged. That is great. But there are also people who are brand new to the community, and they are bringing new, fresh ideas and perspectives, and we need those voices as well. And so Lake Oswego is a place that really is kind of come one, come all. We're glad that everyone is here, whether you're just, here to live, or you have a family, or you're here retiring, or you're operating your business here. The chamber, the city, our doors, our phone lines, emails are always open. And that's another great thing about Lake Oswego, is that we're a decent sized town. We have anything you could want, really. And we're small enough that we all know each other. And you can email me as the mayor. You're going to get a response. Glad to engage with everyone. So we're very responsive, at least on the government side, very responsive. And we like to be out there engaging.
We'll give you one last thing to weigh in on. If there were one or two business amenities that were to come to Lake Oswego that you miss or that you haven't seen here, like if we were recruiting for new businesses, what might that be?
What we've seen in the region is a lot of kind of reshuffling of the deck. It's been great. For LO, so we have had a lot of businesses move in, but they're just coming from a neighboring city. So Lake Oswego, that's great. Businesses and employees coming here that we didn't have before. But as really like to think regionally, here, right? Like Lake Oswego is not going to exist as the one successful city if all our neighbors are losing business. It's not sustainable. Like in the short term, we think, wow, this is great. But in the long term, not healthy. It's not good. So we really take this broader regional approach to thinking about things. And so when all we're doing is moving businesses from Portland to the suburbs, that is not great. We need to be bringing new businesses into the region, businesses coming from other states, new businesses kind of cropping up. And if I could take the opportunity to speak like a little more broadly about this topic, like I mentioned, we hear at the state level the efforts focused on, well, what tax incentives can we give? And it's all centered around manufacturing. And that's fine. Those are good jobs. They can produce a lot of broader economic health. But it's difficult right now to get folks to want to invest in the Portland metro region. We have projects here in town where it's difficult to get people to even invest in whether it's even housing, in the Portland metro region. And we're seeing housing starts at their lowest point in a long time. At the same point, we're still in this housing crisis. And you think, well, the housing investments should be a no-brainer. But the climate in Oregon is uncertain. People need to know that they can trust leaders to make consistent decisions. And when they don't know legislative session to legislative session what kind of regulations the state is going to be handing down, then they say, hey, we're just going to take our money to a safer bet. There's many opportunities across the country where people can go and invest. And we also just need to do, so I think about this as a city and then, at the state level as well, just doing a better job setting the table. One of the reasons why it's difficult to attract larger businesses into Oregon is that our education system as a whole is not great. Kids go to school like the least amount of days in Oregon than any other state in the country. And the results, now Lake Oswego has a strong school district because of our, demographics in large part. But when businesses are looking at the state and the academic results as a whole, it's not good. So if the state would just do, instead of giving away property taxes and just trying to incentivize people with money, I mean, that only goes so far. If you don't have an excellent education system and a predictable business environment, there are other states with great education systems. There are other states that have a reliable business environment. So I hope all of us, just as a region, as a state, that we can provide more predictability for businesses so they know what they're getting into. And then again, locally, I mean, it's a great thing for us because when attracting businesses to LO, and even if these are like smaller businesses, people are looking at that. They're coming here because they say, wow, like this is a great community. I can be close to nature, with great weather, and it's very livable, and it has a great school system. Those are the basic things that people are looking at. So on a state level, I think we have to do more of that, foundational work and provide consistency that we need to be able to grow investments in business and in housing. It all goes together.
I'd have to say that Mayor Buck has a great city to manage and a wonderful cooperative community. Thank you, Mayor Buck. We appreciate all you and the City Council do for our business community.
Thank you, Liz. And thank you, Michelle. It's great talking to you both.
Well, that was wonderful. He's inspiring, I must say. And he's talking about problems with Oregon. And what about Governor Buck? That would be not a bad idea. I know there's a lot going on. April's a busy month for the chamber. What's happening? What do we need to know in LO, Liz?
Well, what you need to know in LO is that Saturday, April 4th, we're Hop at the Hunt, and we have Dan Brown and Farmers Insurance as our sponsor this year. This is at the Hunt Club, and they are welcoming us to come and bring the community in for an egg hunt. That is Saturday, April 4th at 10 a.m. You can come early and get pictures taken with Hop the Bunny. The thing we're really preparing for in April is the Wine Walk, which is our third annual Oregon Wine Walk on Boones Ferry Road. We will have more than 20 pouring locations. We have more than 20 wineries that will be featured. Tickets will be on sale at lakeoswegochamber.com. It's $50 for 12 tastes. It's a wonderful event that is on Saturday, May 9th from 2 to 5 p.m. That is the day before Mother's Day, so what a wonderful gift to give your mom. We are looking for sponsors for the 4th of July parade. This is our biggest attendance thing for people to come to Lake Oswego. We have a title sponsor, that is Anytime Plumbing. We do always tell people, try and start off your day with the Lions Club Pancake Breakfast. It starts at 7:30 a.m. at George Rogers Park. They also will be looking for sponsors. So you can have the name of your business on the picnic table. So all those folks who cycle in, eating their pancakes, can see your business.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Liz, for all you do. We appreciate it. And thank our listeners. And remember that every day is a Chamber of Commerce Day here in Lake Oswego.
The Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce thanks you for listening to Business LO. We would love to have you as a member so you can help Lake Oswego continue to be one of the best places to live, work, and play. If you want to share an idea for a future episode or become a member, visit us at lakeoswegochamber.com, and please like and follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And for help with your business podcast, go to modcastproductions.com.